Given that it is spooky month, I shall rank the best, the most mid, and the absolute worst of the master craftsman Junji Ito's horror manga. You should check him out. I'ma do it ZP style. Now, some pointers. I have not read all of Junji Ito's work. I'm missing some pretty big works of his. You won't see Long Sleep, as I have only read the Cliff's Notes version of it. I don't count that. You won't see Hellstar Remina, as I haven't read it. You won't see Gyo, so sorry about that. I'm only human, after all. At the bottom of the best, we have Tomie's Revenge. Out of the whole Tomie stories that I've read, Revenge is the one that has stuck with me the most. There are two other stories of Tomie that pop into my mind. One is called The Basing of the Waterfall, and the other one is called Top Model. I think Top Model is the one that you see that iconic Tomie split face one. I think that's where that image comes from. So the synopsis is there's this mountaineering group of 3 guys, and they're just mountaineering out in the snow. They hear someone call for help. One of the friend dies, and then they find a naked Tomie, and then they strap her in a rescue gurney, and they keep her warm. Then the other 2 guys, one is more level-headed, and the other guy got enchanted by Tomie's powers, and he gives up all of his clothes so Tomie can be warmer, and he's just butt-ass naked, or not butt-ass naked, but just his underwear on a blizzard, which isn't good. It really highlights how fast and how strong Tomie's powers are over humanity. The guy's an expert mountaineer, but in an instant he gave up everything just to save Tomie. Highly recommend you check it out. This is one of my personal favorite stories, but I know it's kind of bland. The name is Army of One. There's a serial killer in the loose. His modus operandi is sewing people together. So whenever they find a victim, they're stuck together. Literally, it's one of the first panels you see. It's fucking brutal. I highly recommend you read it. Just because it's a personal favorite of mine. It is one of the blander ones, so if you don't want to be scared too hard, you can read it. The final panel, absolute masterpiece. That's the only reason why this is on 5. It's an absolute masterpiece. The final payoff of the Junji Ito story. Just kind of a slasher, mysterious story, and the reasoning is kind of whack too. Now, on number 5 of the worst is scarecrows. In this town, people have been dying a lot, and people are mourning the death of their loved ones. But then some kids decide to prank a farmer by stealing a scarecrow and putting it on a tombstone. And when the farmer went to retrieve it, these meddling kids, now I gotta go all the way to the fucking cemetery to get my shit. So he goes there and he notices that the scarecrow has taken the shape, the hair of whoever was buried. After that, it's just after that, people start planting scarecrows on the tombstones, and they try to speak to the scarecrows because the scarecrows look around, they get facial features and everything, and that's kind of it. The plot kind of fizzles out after that. The scarecrows don't really do anything interesting. It does solve one mystery because somebody died under mysterious circumstances, and the scarecrows kind of help figure that out, but the art was okay. The art was okay, and the payoff wasn't good. That wasn't worth the read. Fashion model. A group of friends want to shoot an amateur movie, and they need 2 female actors. It's not a fucking it's not one of those balloon films. It's a regular movie. They wanted 2 female leads, 2 female actors for the movie. But one of the friends had a dream of this butt ugly long face woman, and he saw her on the casting, and his friend called her to cast her because he wanted to mess with him. And they ended up hiring her because one of the friends thought, hey, she's a model, maybe she has some clout to her. And the other girl, they hired her because she was cute. And then on the way to the mountains, they notice there's something off about fucking Sarah Jessica Parker. There's something off about her, the way she laughs, she gets fangs, you know. Some shit is gonna go down. I'll stop the story there. Highly recommend you read it. The ending is absolutely beautiful. What I like a lot about this story is it carries attention throughout the whole story. Like, ever since you see the girl on the guy's stream, you know there's some shit that's about to go down. Like, you feel it. You feel you can't be at peace. You can't take a breather. On number 4 for the Blandest, The Solving Classroom. Now, this is one of the Junji Ito's like earlier work. It's a long story. There's a ton of classrooms. The whole premise is that there's this guy that, through some demonic shit, he has the power to dissolve people by saying he's sorry. Then he has a little sister who's like a goddamn demon. She likes to drink that dissolve people, and shenanigans ensue. The story is really repetitive, honestly. There's one chapter that's kind of good when the demon girl has her crush over at the house, and it's kind of, you know, that story's really good. But then it gets really repetitive after that. Also, the ending, it's not worth it, honestly. The ending felt kind of rushed. Like, it felt a little Deus Ex Machina-esque. But the art is pretty good. So, you know, kind of bland. Bullied. A girl who has a fiance tells her fiance to meet her at the park, and she tells a story about how she used to bully this guy. And then, you know, she was really horrible to this one kid because, you know, the kid was tiny and she was bigger, and she found him annoying, and she thought that the kid only distracted her from the boy she likes. But by the end of it, she confesses to the guy that he's actually leaving him for the boy that she bullied. And then stuff happens at the end. Junji Ito's philosophy is try to see something like that fucking pillow. Try to make it scary. It can't work all the time. You know, there is a way to make a bully or someone like that scarier, but Junji Ito kind of like swung a miss. It happens to the best of us, and Junji Ito is the best horror manga artist. So he can't hit all home runs. Not worth it. Not worth a read. The art is also kind of whack because there's no elder cores. It's just humans. Grease. A family lives above a barbecue restaurant that's really greasy. It's really filthy. You know, every wall you touch, it's greasy. And the girl, who's the main character, has the power to see how saturated the grease is. She has a brother that chugs salad oil. Their dad, you know, the restaurant is failing. And as time goes on, the grease saturation gets more saturated, and, you know, everything gets more gross, more slimy. Like, you feel dirty reading this story. This is one of the earlier Junji Ito stories I've read. Not the first one I read, but one of the earlier ones. Like, even telling the story, I feel greasy. Like I feel like I need to take a shower, and I just took a fucking shower. You feel gross reading the story. You feel like your room isn't clean enough. Like anything is clean enough. Like your walls are filthy or something. You know, it gives me that clean freak feeling. It is absolutely horrifying. I highly recommend you read it. It has, in my opinion, one of the better Junji Ito arts that isn't focused on the monster. Like, its focus is entirely on the backgrounds. Like, this is Junji Ito practicing background work, and holy shit, he nailed it. He nailed every single beat of it. There's 2 other stories that are similar to this, where the focus is on the background work. One is called Mold, and the other one, I don't remember the name, but it's the girl that gets turned on by old houses, and then everything gets warped. But out of the 3, Glyceride is the best, in my opinion. The Room with 4 Heavy Walls. This is part of Soichi's collection. Soichi, I don't really like Soichi as a character. I'll be honest. I think he's one of the weaker recurring Junji Ito characters. I think Tomie is his best. And this is the blandest Soichi story. So Soichi has a brother, and his brother needs to study for his finals, but Soichi keeps messing with his brother because he's a jerk. Like, he keeps making sounds and stuff like that. So his brother says, I need a soundproof room. So they get this contractor who, says, oh, I'll do it for free or for cheap. And they build a soundproof room, and it has like 4 walls of insulation. That's what's called, the room with 4 walls. And then it has the tiny room in the middle for him to study. Then Soichi gets in the walls. He's in your walls. You gotta break him out. He just kind of messes with him. There's not really a scare. If you want to read a good Soichi story, there's 2 that come to mind. When he invites his crush and he makes a doll of his teacher. Those are the only 2 that I think are better. There is one story, but I don't count it as a Soichi story because it ties up to another story. Ice cream bus. There's an ice cream bus that runs into town, and kids love it, and the ice cream man offers this special service where kids can go in the bus to eat all the ice cream they want. He sounds like a goddamn kid toucher, but he's good looking, so it's pretty privileged. And the kids go in, they eat ice cream, and then they come back. And there's this one dad that being the alpha male that he is, he doesn't let his son go in at first, but then he buckles, and then weird stuff starts happening. It's not worth a read. The twist at the end doesn't really stick with you. You just look at the manga and you're like, well, this is kind of dumb. This is gonna make me just want to read another story. Because it isn't scary. It's not scary at all. And it's sad. It's sad when a scary story isn't scary or intriguing. So, Ice Cream Man, another big swing and a miss. The Enigma at Amigara Fault. Now, a little bit of bias here. This is the first Junji story I read. It's been referenced in a lot of media. I think the most famous one that comes to mind is Steven Universe, where the girl sticks to the hole and just fucking gets sucked in. It's that story. So this mountain splits open, and there's people-shaped holes inside, and the news are reporting it, and people go to check it out, and then when they're looking at them, they're like, oh, this is my hole. I belong in this hole. So, people go in, and then they get sucked into the mountain. And then there's this one guy that, met this girl in the mountain, and then some stuff happens. I'll stop spoilers there. This story, just like Top Model, it carries attention with it. From the moment you know about the Enigma, you're intrigued by it. It keeps you hooked. You want to know what's behind the Enigma. What happens if they go into the holes? It doesn't remain a mystery, which I really like. I think it's better, people say, oh, whatever you imagine, it's a lot scarier than whatever somebody else can do. And, it works sometimes, but I feel like it's more ballsy to show the monster. Because, you're like, whatever you imagine it, I can do it better. It's not good enough. I can be better than your imagination. But, some stories do benefit from the other one, like Children of the Corn. You don't know if there's something in the corn or if it's just the children's doing. So, check it out. One of his most famous stories. It's what introduced me to Junji Ito and kept me reading all of these other stories. So, high recommendation. The Licking Woman. So, there's a guy walking on an alley. A girl walks out, licks him, then he showers, and he dies. The guy grows some shit on his face that kills him, and the cat licked his face, so the cat also dies, which is also a tragedy. And now people are searching for this woman, because he's not the only one. The people know that there's this licking woman going around, and she needs to be stopped. But police don't help because, are you gonna believe a schizo that tells you there's a fucking woman licking people? Of course not. It's realistic that the police wouldn't believe it. But yeah, it's just a slasher manga, which is okay. But slasher mangas, just like slasher films, they have to get one thing extremely right. They have to get the kills right. Because nobody's scared of a slasher. If you can fight back against a slasher, I prefer it over an immortal slasher. But then you have to show that there's a big risk of fighting this slasher. The Licking Woman, she doesn't really pose a risk. She's just a woman after all. Like, oh, if she licks you, you dies. Yeah, but you can, you can martyr yourself and fucking dunk her, or you could like try to run away. Again, she's just a woman. There's nothing special about her. Just the tongue. It does have a nice plot twist. It does have like an okay plot twist. I wouldn't call it nice, but yeah, the art is good. Look up the tongue. Look up the licking woman's tongue, or hell, I'm not sure to could be better. Just a slasher. The groaning drain. So there's this mom that she's a clean freak, and there's this Reddit moderator, probably the one that get me permabanned from Nintendo, that likes the girls in the house. The mom has 2 daughters, forgot to mention that. And she fucking kicks him out, and then he breaks in to the house, and then she kicks him out again, and wherever he's standing, she washes it, and it triggers her clean freakness. And she washes so much that she actually gets sick. And then the girls start hearing stuff from the drain. That's it. Well, that's not it. I won't spoil the ending in case you want to check it out. But it's not worth it. There's a really cool set of scenes that involve legs. If you read this story, you know what I mean. Like, that's the only cool part about this manga. Other than that, not scary at all. The plot is so dumb. You don't really get a payoff at the end. Junji likes to do that a lot, where his stories end after the scare. Now, the best Junji story I've read. It's Uzumaki. What else could it have been? His magnum opus. Iconic scenes everywhere. The moon girl, the hair, the dad's eyes, all the spirals. You know what I'm talking about if you read it. There's this town that slowly becomes engulfed by the power of the spiral, and the first person to be affected is the dad of this guy. He starts eating usumakis. He starts collecting snails, clay pots. Then he starts to become the spiral, turns his eyes, he tries to make his hands into spirals and shit. And that's as far as I'm gonna spoil. It has a lot of stories to it. Spring Jack, I think it was a cool little story. But the best one, in my opinion, it's the hair one. When the girls grow their hair out and it's full of spirals. This is his best story. I think because it uses his whole scope. So something like Top Model, where it's a monster, and something like Grease, where it's backgrounds. This combines all of them. It has monsters, it has backgrounds. The later chapters are full of background stuff and body horror and all of this stuff that Junji is a master of. The first biggest scare gives me chills sometimes. It's the tub. Don't spoil it, or if you spoil it, take proper spoiler etiquette. I still think about that. It is such a good drawing. If you were to read only one Junji story, out of all of them, Uzumaki is the one I recommend, if you have the time. If not, the Enigma of Amigara's fault. Hallucinations. Now we have what I think is the Blandest story. So Hallucinations is, there's these 2 friends, and one of them is jealous that the other one is taller or hotter or some shit, so he fucking kills him. And then when he goes check on his body, he thinks his neck got longer, and the whole story is him hallucinating the people with long necks and stuff. I'm really torn between this one and the Licking Woman of what's actually the Blandest. Because the long necks are cool, but I feel like the Licking Woman had better art. And that's the one thing that really sets it apart. It's used over and over. It loses the effect for me. And unlike Uzumaki, where the body horror changes a lot, here it's just the neck that gets long on all of the hallucinations. This, I believe, is his Blandest story with the blandest ending that you could think of. You should still check it out, just so you can see baseline Junji Ito, not his best, not his worst. If you want to check it out, go ahead. It was a fun read. This is the story that I knew was gonna be the worst story since I had the video. The other ones I had to think about. With the top ones I had to think, which one is second best? Because of course Uzumaki is gonna be the one. With the Blandest I was debating, what makes a bland story? Is it the lack of scares? Is it that you don't remember it? Is it that, it's repetitive? With this one, I had no doubts in my mind that she is a slow walker. The worst story Junji Ito has written. So, the whole plot. There's this couple, and they're arguing whether George Romero zombies, the slow zombies, are better, or the newer, faster zombies are better, or scarier. And then there's a zombie outbreak that happens. His girlfriend turns into a zombie, and the whole plot revolves around that. So, I don't know. I don't think I can blame Junji Ito in this one. Zombies are not scary. The last time I was scared of zombies, I was like 9 or 8. And I don't know if 9 or 8-year-olds today are scared of zombies. I was only scared because, I was a fucking coward as a kid. If zombies not being scary, it's Junji Ito's fault. What is his fault is a bad story. That is entirely his fault. It would have been cool to see him just try to have this, to make zombies scary. But my god, zombies being scary is is an extremely lost hope if the best horror manga author cannot make them scary. So it's the absolute worst story Junji Ito has written. The story's dumb. It's just straight up dumb. And the ending is even dumber. There's no payoff. So, Junji Ito, the best horror manga artist, a truly master of his craft. I highly recommend you check it out this Halloween. If not for his stories, just for his art. The man works hard at it, and it's always a pleasure to look at, even on his Blandest stories. Well, this has been all. This has been Ren, or Alias. Bye bye.